Welcome to the latest webinar in our series entitled Adapt, a series offering practical insight and guidance to senior leaders and their teams as we all continue to understand how to adapt at a time of unprecedented global change. In this webinar, we're going to explore the Adaptable Team framework, the approach we've been using in the Centre for Teams for about 10 years, and provide you with 7 questions that we invite you and your teams to engage with in becoming a truly adaptable team and creating the kind of sustainable results that you wish for. Once again, I'm joined by my colleague, Chris Sheepshanks. Chris.
David, thank you. We've been talking a lot recently about the fact that adaptation has become such an important theme at present, with all sorts of organizations using the idea to reach out to clients at a time of change. Change, however, of course, is never that easy. It does require us to unlearn things, to let go of old redundant patterns of working and behavior and embrace new ones that will be more supportive. That can be difficult. However, if COVID has taught us anything, it's shown us that actually the ability to adapt is utterly connected with our ability to survive and thrive. The epicenter of that adaptation is often the microsystems in which people operate at work. And that's usually in a team, be that an executive, a management, or a project team. We use this framework with our clients to actually support them in the process of change and adaptation. And David, as the instigator of this work, perhaps I could invite you to just start taking us through it.
Thanks, Chris. So what we're going to do here is take you through each part of the Adaptable Team framework. And we're going to start right in the middle with stakeholders. At the heart of any activity of any team is what stakeholders require of that team. These stakeholders form a complex web of groups and agencies that have a constantly shifting dynamic between them and, of course, with the team. They are internal stakeholders, so staff, other teams, the board, the executive team, specialist functions, and external stakeholders, customers, suppliers, local communities, local and national government, regulators, and the like. These internal and external stakeholders, to a greater or lesser extent, require something of the team. This is the team's primary task, to understand what those stakeholders do actually require. Chris.
Thank you, David. Having understood what stakeholders actually want, it can be debated as to where the team should then focus. We often observe teams rushing into an exploration of actions and outcomes, particularly at a time of stress. However, our experience is that it is usually fundamental for the team to firstly clarify its purpose. For it is a clear sense of purpose that actually enables the team to understand the reasons why it exists and the wider function that it serves in meeting stakeholder expectations. Creating clarity around the team's purpose also generates a stronger sense of identity and unity around what the team thinks and feels is important in working together in meeting those expectations. It is therefore crucial that the purpose of the team leader, and the stakeholders are all aligned. David.
So the next piece is, as Chris describes, a focus on results. Once the team's purpose is clear, it's much easier to be clear on the results that the team wishes to create, to set meaningful goals that will focus its attention on outputs and outcomes. What's often described as performance, its metrics, are the output and the required outcomes that accrue from those outputs. Examples include revenue targets, deadline targets, health and safety targets, and the like. In addition to these performance metrics, however, there are 3 other areas that we think are crucial for the team to focus its attention on. Firstly, it's learning. Secondly, the level of enjoyment in the team. And thirdly, the sense of the team engaged in a meaningful endeavor. So these 3 elements are also outcomes from the activity of the team and go to make up what we believe are more sustainable results and outcomes. Chris.
Thanks, David. Being clear on the purpose of the team and the results you want to achieve is, of course, only the first initial step. The team has to actually do something, to take action in order to produce those results. Those actions need to be coordinated and thought through in order to be effective and efficient. The team needs to build the ability to set a clear direction with specific goals which will guide the team's activity and for which they will hold themselves mutually accountable. They need to agree roles that are clear and delineated, making sound decisions along the way, innovating where necessary, and spotting the opportunities for new thinking, making effective use of different backgrounds, skills, and experience, and supporting and challenging each other to get the best from each team member. All of that can feel like a tall order for many teams, particularly given the fact that they include a group of complex and inherently different human beings, all of whom have different preferences, bias, aspirations, and experience, and all of that can play out in the dynamics of the team. David.
Thanks, Chris. The quality of the actions that the team engages in order to produce the results is often determined by the quality of that team dynamic. From our experience, the dynamics of the team is something that team members might talk about, but not necessarily know how to address directly. The team member is about being a team, not just calling yourselves one, and understanding how to work together effectively to achieve the task. It refers to the hidden forces which lie beneath the surface, both helpful and less helpful, that go to make up how a team thinks and feels. That's about each other, the team, its tasks, and such thoughts and emotions require sufficient attention and alignment in order for coordinated action to be possible. The team, for instance, needs to be a safe place to speak up, to share what's going well or might hold them back. And there needs to be sufficient trust between team members so that they can share resources, tasks, and accountability for outcomes. Chris.
Thanks, David. Holding all this together is team leadership. There is clearly an important dynamic and relationship between the team leader and the team members. From our experience, there are three genetic elements to the team leader's role, and sadly, from our experience, they are not always fully recognized. And they need to be present for the team leader to get the most out of the team and for team members to get the most out of themselves and each other. Those three elements are, firstly, natural leadership, that ability to set a direction and a vision for the future. They include management, which often actually boils down to a sense of compliance, actually clarity in terms of the rules, expectations, and agreements that need to be in place for work to be done. And the third element, which is often missed, which is about coaching, actually how the team leader and how team members actually support each other to perform to their best, having those conversations that actually allow people to actually shift their way of working. The challenge for the team leader is often to know how to actually balance each of these three core elements, given the fact that each intrinsic relies on the other for its effectiveness. David.
Thanks, Chris. In the way that we've been describing stakeholder expectations, results, actions, dynamic, and purpose and team leadership, you'll see that there's an intimate relationship between each of these elements that goes to make up the team's work together. There's also an interplay and a dynamic between them. Over time, therefore, we see it as crucial that the team engages in what we describe as a team learning rhythm. Organizations are already very familiar with the idea of an operational rhythm, a rhythm which punctuates the financial period into quarters, into months, into year's end. And often the team will structure meetings in order to be synchronized with those reporting processes. These operational conversations are an important opportunity to look back and to look forwards. The challenge now, though, is also to make sure that there is an opportunity for a team learning rhythm alongside its operational rhythm, in order that it can continue to learn from its own experience and have the depth of conversation that enables them to effectively apply such learning. Now, up to this point, we've been describing the life of a team. However, if you broaden this to see a number of teams engaging with this adaptability agenda over time within an organization, what that adds up to is an organization which we would describe as a learning organization. And for us, this is the ultimate prize, a learning organization which constitutes a network of teams that go to make up the organization and its ability to learn and perform together. Chris.
Thank you, David. As we've taken you through this framework, it is our hope that all of the elements, or at least some of them, have resonated with you differently, particularly in terms of your own experience of leading a team or being part of a team. It is our hope and belief that you will have had experience of teams that have had a clear purpose and experienced the impact of that in terms of that sense of unity that it can create. We hope that you've had experience of teams that have had clear idea of actually what they want to achieve, the results that they need, and as a result have been able to create coordinated action in order to achieve those results in service of their stakeholders. And teams that have had a thriving dynamic, where it's been a real pleasure to be part of that team and an enriching process, where you've experienced great team leadership and team membership and a strong learning rhythm that has enabled you to reflect and work even better going forward. It is also our experience, however, that you may have experienced the opposite. You may have had times when actually you've worked in teams that have not been clear on their purpose or their results, or indeed the actions they need to take. And that's usually because people have been so busy, they've just lost connection with it. That actually have an unhealthy dynamic, not through their own fault, but through various changes, through actually disagreements within the team that have never been resolved, and the impact of that in terms of what it's like to be part of that team. Places where you've experienced perhaps a lack of good team leadership or membership, or perhaps a lack of learning rhythm that's actually allowed you to recognize the need to adapt at the right time to stay relevant to your stakeholder needs. We, as we come to the end of this webinar, have 7 questions to help your further reflection on your experience. David.
Thank you, Chris. So these are the 7 questions for the Adaptable Team framework and for teams that wish to engage in this endeavour. The first is on stakeholders. What do our internal and our external stakeholders want from me and from this team? Purpose. What therefore is our purpose within the system that we serve? And what results are we after? What do we need to achieve together as a team? Fourthly, action. What do we need to do together and do together well to create those results? Fifthly, the dynamic. What do we expect of each other? And what kind of dynamic do we need and do we want to create together? Team learning rhythm. What operational and learning rhythm best supports us? And finally, leadership. What is my role? And where can I make the greatest contribution? So those are the 7 questions for Adaptable Team. We commend them to you, and should you need any further information, then you know where to find us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.